For longer the camera's on.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nicole.
How are you?
I'm here.
Good. We're all here. Holly's here too.
Yep.
Living the dream. Living the dream.
Yes, glad we are all in agreement today. That is where we are.
Somebody made the comment how June had just flown by, and I was like, where have you been? June has crawled by.
2020 though has been
True.
just right on through.
Holly, are you good for like sharing your screen and everything?
Yes, ma'am. I am ready to go. Yep.
Okay. I'll do some introductory slides. And
Okay.
then
Yeah. Let me get it.
say that the lovely Holly LaFavors will be taking it from here.
Here I am. Yeah. Yeah. I'm good. I just double checked. Thank you for letting me go first too. That was
First.
when they scheduled that. I was like, oops.
No worries. Can make it
It
happen.
happens. Look, I had my basketball goal over here in the background. Decided I would whoop.
I'm always like, how do I adjust my camera? Like just enough so it's not something weird.
Yeah. Now you can just see my messy desk back there.
Who cares at this point? Who cares? There have been plenty of board meetings, like my board of director meetings, that my 4-year-old has just popped up. So we are back in the office though, so that has helped.
My 4-year-old thinks that if I'm on a meeting, he should be the center of attention, like because he got used to it last year, going, "Hi, everybody."
Yes, yes.
Not that he shouldn't be the center of attention all the time, but it just kind of made it worse.
Good morning, Emma.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are going to give it just a few minutes for a few more people to jump on, and then we will kick off right around 10. Good morning, everyone. It looks like everyone is starting to join us. So while we're just waiting for the last few people to jump on, I have a question to kick us off this morning. I would love to know, what is your favorite summer activity to do either with your family or with children, family-friendly activities? For me, I love the pool. My kiddo is not a huge fan of the pool, but I'm convinced that I will convince him by the end of the summer to love it. So we'll see how that goes. I will update you in the fall and let you know if I succeeded with my summer mission. Kentucky is a great place to live in the summer because we have so many options. You can go hiking, you can go swimming in the lake, you can come to Lexington and go to a museum. Just have all the options here. All right, everyone. Lots of outside activities. Is anyone an indoor person? Is anyone's favorite activity staying in the AC? All right, everyone, we are going to kick it off today. I'm so excited to have you all join us. We are here for our June 30th Community Early Childhood Council and Partner webinar. We are going to be talking today about bright spots in early childhood again, using that bright spots document from our request for application. This time we are going to be focusing on home visitation programs. We have various programs across the Commonwealth, and lots of our councils and community partners utilize these programs. And we really just want to highlight these programs today and have some conversations around best practices. So we are looking forward to hearing from everyone. We will not be doing breakouts today. Instead of the breakouts, we are going to be using an idea board to kind of share some thoughts, have some conversation in the chat, and there'll also be an opportunity to unmute if anyone would like to contribute to a conversation. If not, I would love to have your thoughts in the chat box. Feel free to add those comments throughout our session today. Amanda Adkins will be helping us out. If anyone does have technical issues today, feel free to put a message in the chat, or you can send her an email and she'll do her best to help you out. And we are recording this, So if you do get kicked out, or if you want to share it with anyone in your community, you can always share that recording. So first of all, I think that we should unmute and give a round of applause to our 32 wonderful regional collaboratives who received grant funding for fiscal year 22. Every application that we received was outstanding. We're so proud of the work that everyone put in. We know that we changed some things up this year, and you all really just took a great stab at getting those SMART goals in, at reaching those outcomes, and really thinking innovatively on those applications. There were 105 counties covered, and in addition to the traditional grant funding, every collaborative who sent in a request for that supplemental funding received at least a portion of supplemental funding to work towards their council's goals for the upcoming year. So we are super excited, and we hope that we are able to continue a conversation throughout the year to really continue making progress and making an impact on those outcomes. So just in case we have anyone with us today who is new to our webinars, my name is Nicole Wisniewski. I'm the project manager for our community early childhood councils at the Governor's Office of Early Childhood. Our office has a primary goal of uniting partnerships to positively impact policy and practice in the early childhood space. So when we say that, we really are just looking at making those connections, bringing all of the key players to the table, making sure that we are having conversations with all of the key stakeholders involved, and continuing to make those impacts and make those changes to get everything going in the right direction. And a key strategy of our office in reaching local communities to improve kindergarten readiness are the community early childhood councils. Our councils are across the Commonwealth. They're really the boots on the ground leaders, and they have innovative practices and know the needs of their communities. So something that I really want to highlight about our councils is that our councils are in what we call regional collaboratives. And these regional collaboratives were set up as a result of a study that was completed, and they work in multiple counties. So we have a regional collaborative that serves multiple counties, and they're really able to blend and braid funds and talk about what works in their community and see what those needs are to just continue to unify the early childhood space. And we're really excited to continue with that this year and continue making progress. And another thing that I want to highlight for everyone today is that our councils this year were tasked with, in addition to the continued use of data to create a needs assessment and determine what strategies to implement in their communities, our councils also created SMART goals this year on their application. So SMART goals is a term that we're going to use quite a bit this year. We're going to continue to develop these goals throughout the year. So I didn't let you all know in advance, but I hope that you have those SMART goals from your council's request for application, maybe somewhere in your mind, or you can pull them out and just take a look at them and just be thinking about, as we talk today about home visitation, where you have home visitation in your SMART goals for those outcomes for your application, and how can you continue to maybe make changes to those SMART goals or revise those SMART goals to add in these best practices and really think about adding more pieces in and more partners in to continue on that progress. And when we talk about making progress, we are also talking about that collective impact model. And I'm super excited because we have some great partners with us today with home visitation, as well as a council that is really working towards this collective impact model in their community, where those partners in home visitation are partnering with other local and national entities and their community early childhood council to blend and braid their funds and to really all move towards a common goal instead of everyone working separately towards a goal. They're really working together to improve outcomes in their community. So I'm super excited to share with you today what this council and our partners are working on. And before we dive in, I want to introduce our first partner who's with us today, the Health Access Nurturing Development Services Program. This is commonly known as HANS. For most of our councils will know this as HANS. The HANS program is under Cabinet for Health and Family Services and the Department of Public Health, and this is a home visitation program. You might remember from our Bright Spots document that we talked about HANS in there as an evidence-based model of home visitation. So this is really a great program. And we are going to have Miss Holly LaFavors with us to share some information about this program and give you an update. There really is a sense of urgency to connect our councils with the HANS program. So while Holly gives her update, if you have questions and you want to reach out to find your local HANS provider, feel free to send me an email and I can connect you. Also, since I always love any opportunity to share statistics on our early childhood profile, I want to make sure that everyone knows where to access this information. So HANS is the Health Access Nurturing Development Services Program, HANS. If you go to the KY Stats website, which Amanda just shared in the chat for you, you go onto that main page and up here, this blurry All Stars Early Childhood Programs link, you're going to click there. Oops, and then go down to the bottom of the page and you can see the HANS data on the KY Stats website. You can also sort this by county if you're interested in seeing specifically what the data looks like in your county or your council area. So with that, I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass it over to Miss Holly to give us an update on the HANS program.
There we go. I had to figure out how to unmute myself. I apologize. So thank you all very much for having me today. It is very nice to see some faces, see some names of faces that I have not seen in a long time. So just wanted to share some things with you guys about HANS. HANS is known as the Health Access Nurturing Developmental Services. We are part of the maternal and infant grant department over at the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. I came over to HANS February of 2020, right before the world came to an end. So a lot of things stopped and a lot of things had to change very abruptly when I first came over to HANS. So we are now trying to rebuild the program and get back into the homes and seeing our families. So what is HANS? HANS is a voluntary intensive home visitation program. We serve families prenatal through the child's second birthday. There are extenuating circumstances that we will see the children after or continue to see the families after their second birthday. Previously, HANS was known as being based on income and it was considered for low income families, but that isn't the case. We do have a screener to help, it's for families who are considered at risk based off of our screener, but most families would be considered at risk based off of our screener, and that was done intentionally. And it's designed to improve both the health and social outcomes of families. So the idea of HANS is to kind of try to break that cycle. The goals of the HANS program is positive pregnancy outcomes, optimal growth, child growth and development, that the children live in healthy and safe homes, and that the families make decisions for themselves and are self-sufficient. Currently, and that was our information from 2020, HANS is in all 120 counties. So you could always reach out to any health department. The only area that it's not a contract with the health department would be Louisville, and we contract with Family Children's Place there. In 2020, we served 4,376 families. That was throughout the pandemic. I will say that those numbers have dropped off significantly. We were able to put a lot of families on hold during the pandemic because they weren't able to do teleservices, and then we weren't able to find them, or they just decided not to continue with services when we went back. We are funded through the Master Tobacco Settlement dollars. We also bill Medicaid for our services, and then we have a federal grant known as the MCV grant, the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visitation Grant. So the process for HANDS is just like the process for maybe public school and First Steps. We do a screening and assessment to determine if the family qualifies for services, and then we link them with a home visitor. The big thing with this is that you have to understand that after a child is 90 days old, they're no longer eligible to enter our program. So we want to catch these families when they are prenatal and before the child turns 90 days old. Our evidence-based status says that that's when the most bonding happens with the family, and so that's when we want to be sure to be in the home. What do we do during the home visits? We have a curriculum that we use. It's called Growing Great Kids. Part of that is Growing Great Families, and the family module just helps to develop the family values and strengths, build parenting skills, work towards family and child goals, use strategies for reducing stress, and just improve the overall health, social education, and economic outcomes for all of the children. So part of Growing Great Kids is the social piece that we really focus on. And we all know that when we look at the data for early childhood, social skills are always one thing that that our children are lacking in. So we really focus on that with HANDS, and we focus on basic care and child development, nurturing the parent-child relationship, and then strength-based supports to families. So I will say that a lot of the things that we go over in HANDS are a lot of the things that currently I'm doing with my son in behavior therapies. So it's teaching these children these things and these families ways to handle stress, ways to handle when they're upset and those types of things before they get old and before things get out of hand. So for the modules where we work one-on-one with the families, we really work on attachment and bonding. Basic care for the family, social emotional development, those cues and communication with the parent and the child, physical and brain development, and then play and stimulation. So one of the other focuses are that our home visitors ensure that our children have medical homes and that they get their well child visits and their immunizations are taken care of. They will make the referrals to physician's office, dentist, mental health specialists, First Steps, whoever they need to make the referral to ensure the family is getting what they need. There are quarterly visits done by a registered nurse or a social worker, and these are to focus on those preventative things, such as labor and delivery, that to ensure that the mental health needs are being met or that they have their home. Child safety checklists, we do these quite often. And we go into the home just to go over with the parents what some of the concerns might be in the, for safety for their child. And then one of the things that we've really tried to do is to decrease the number of visits for families to the emergency room for something that's non-medical. And that is one of the indicators that we try to track, is that we've been able to keep these children, help prevent these children from being injured. And then we also do the ages and stages social emotional to ensure that the children are developing appropriately and that they don't need early intervention services. And so family self-sufficiency and responsibility, some goals that we want for the families is that we help them decide what do they want for their child, what is important for their child, what resources do they need to help them, and then we help get them and we help put them in contact with those resources. What are the steps that I have to take to get to where I need to be? What are some things that might get in the way? And how will things be different once my family reaches this goal? So it's, again, just sitting down and talking out things and helping these families to ensure that they are able to move forward with their children. How are visits being provided? Currently, we are allowed to go back into the homes for families and our home visitors who are comfortable with going back into the homes. It is not mandatory at this time that we do face-to-face visits. Because of the state of emergency, HANDS is still currently allowed to do telehealth services. So we still are allowing those. Once the state of emergency is lifted, however, it is not in our current regulation that we will be able to continue telehealth. So until we are able to get that modified, we will have to go back face to face. So findings for home visitation are a decrease in prematurity, the decrease of low birth weights, decrease of birth defects, infant mortality, again, emergency room visits, and child abuse and neglect. So we also see an increase in improvement of education of the family, employment increase, and just the overall function of the family, because they understand discipline, they understand the change in the child's development, and we're able to walk them through effective communication strategies. So here you guys can see the cost per case of prematurity, physical abuse, and neglect, and then what the projected savings are based off of home visitation programs, what home visitation can help the community save in the long term, just like other early intervention services. So again, it's just as every parent needs a second set of hands. That's what our motto is. And being a parent, I will say, yes, we do. It takes that village, absolutely takes that village in order to raise our children. So, you know, as Nicole and I kind of shared at the beginning, we did lose quite a bit of our families through the pandemic. Our families didn't have the ability to do teleconferences. And then as a mother, and Nicole and I have talked about this several times, it was so hard to have to do teleservice with your child and work and the stress of all of it. So we did lose a lot of families. So what we are trying to do is rebuild our program. What we would really appreciate the Community Early Childhood Councils doing is reaching out to the HANDS programs and asking them, or just giving them information about what you guys are doing, and asking them if they would be able to participate. Typically, a HANDS is a fee for service, so they get paid based on the number of visits that they do. So that's why sometimes it is very difficult to get HANDS to participate in meetings. But we're hoping now that we are able to do more telehealth stuff and teleservices, that more HANDS providers will be able to participate in meetings. So this is my contact information. The phone number right now actually rings to my personal cell phone. So if you were to have any questions or need me, you could reach me that way. I will tell you, when I came on in February, I was a team of one with Paula. And since then, I have been able to build my entire team. So it started out slowly, but we are really rebuilding. We're going to try to rebrand and really get the HANDS name out there again. So I have a couple minutes for questions. I told Nicole I needed to go first because I got double booked and I need to be somewhere here in just a few minutes. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer what I can.
I see one in the chat, Holly, from Kimberly, asking if HANDS is a national program.
No, HANDS is not a national program. HANDS is a Kentucky-based model. So there are other home visitation models that there's a lot of similarities with HANDS, but HANDS has its own evidence-based status. It is based on what the needs of the Kentucky families are.
Does anyone else have any questions for Holly?
I had a quick question. Hey guys, I'm Leanne Gabbard with Save the Children. It's about the 90-day eligibility. If a baby's born and they're in the ICU for the first 3 months of their lives and they're past the 90-day age when they get home, is it still possible for them to sign up, or what would happen in that case?
No, so what happens is we have to do the screener. Now, the positive thing about COVID is that, let's say the child's been in ICU, but the child has to be present when we're doing services. The mom can have those services provided to her while she's with the child in the NICU, like on her phone. We've been able to do that. I appreciate you asking that question, because we do also get a lot of, well, we just got this referral from DCBS and the child's 95 days old. Based off of our evidence-based status, we cannot accept a child over 90 days. So if they are in the NICU, we'll do our best to work around that and do the best that we can in order to get that child, in for services. We understand the importance of that, but we cannot take a child over 90 days under any circumstance.
Thanks, Holly.
You have one more in the chat that I see from Miss Brenda, who says, what, if any, are barriers your agency faces?
Haha, Brenda. Brenda and I have been having some conversations about how we are having some staffing issues, keeping people on staff once we get them trained. And then, as you can imagine, it's a very stressful job. You're going into homes, you're going into situations that you don't know, and it's very hard not to carry the baggage home with you at times. So we have some staffing issues. COVID has been huge for us because a lot of our hand staff was also pulled to do contact tracing or immunization clinics and those kinds of things. So I also say that we lost families because they weren't able to provide services, but we also had to put some of our agencies on hold because we didn't have providers who could provide services to them. And then it was just hard to pick up with those families again. So we look forward to what the future holds. Again, we have a brand new team at central office. We're looking at updating things. For a long time, Hands has kind of been by itself and stood by itself, but moving forward, we're going to be right in the middle of everything. And thanks to Amy and Nicole, we are, working with the governor's office and just getting our name out there to ensure that people know that the program is still in Kentucky. We are still active and we are still making differences for families.
Thank you so much, Holly. All right. Oh, there's one more question. Holly, if you're able to see the chat, Christy also sent you a question.
I saw it pop up, but I couldn't see it.
It says, would you be interested in getting your hands workers copies of the Imagination Library books so that we can get these homes equipped with print-rich environments?
Absolutely, yes. If you will email me, those are some of the things that we're discussing right now to ensure that the home visitors know what resources are out there in their families, out there in their communities for their families. Sorry, is what I was trying to say. So yes, if you will email me your information, and then I can ensure that all of our home visitors get it and they can get it out to the families.
Thank you so much. These are exciting connections for me to see happening in real time. I hope you all get that same vibe of excitement that I get. But I want to highlight a couple of things that I just heard while Holly was presenting, and also from that question from Leanne. So Hands, while they don't allow new enrollments after 90 days, something that you are all going to hear about here in just a minute with the Save the Children program is that their program works very well with Hands, and they're able to take children into their program who maybe miss that cutoff. So what a great example of that collective impact model of we're all working on the same goal, and if Hands can't do it, maybe the Save the Children program can do it, or maybe another partner that a council is working with can kind of fill in that gap for those families. And another point that I wanted to really highlight is that Holly shared some of the data points and some of those outcomes from the Hands program. So for our councils, when you're looking at your local level data, if you see that you have a big issue in low birth weight or any of those data points that Holly mentioned as positive outcomes from Hands, you can make kind of that direct tie and say, we're going to address this issue in our community that we found through Hands, because Hands is an evidence-based program that directly impacts these issues. So I just kind of really want to drive that point home. I think it's super important for the work of the councils to be always looking for those connections. So thank you all so much for.
All right, thank you, Nicole. I'm going to jump off here. Thank you all so very much.
I'm going to share hopefully the correct PowerPoint. Bear with me if it's the wrong one. All right. So following up with that information from Holly about Hands, I was so excited that the Eastern Streams Community Early Childhood Council was also able to join us today. So we have Miss Emma Davidson and Kristen Collins with us. They are key members of the Eastern Streams Council. So the Eastern Streams Council is in Eastern Kentucky, and they work closely with Hands and the Save the Children Early Steps to School Success program that we're going to hear about in just a minute. And I really just wanted to invite them on to kind of share what this partnership looks like for the council and how they've built this partnership, maybe talk about what some of their goals are as a council, and really just any other information that they'd like to take a moment and share with the group. So I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and I'll pass it over to Kristen and Emma.
Emma, do you want to take this or do you want me to start?
You can go ahead and start.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Collins. I am the treasurer of Eastern Stream CECC. I actually work for the fiscal agent for the CECC. It's a community foundation headquartered in Hazard, Kentucky, and the Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky. But our CECC covers 4 counties, Leslie, Knott, Letcher, and Perry counties. And this is not it's not one of the new collaborations that's happened recently. This group has been together for several years, at least for Emma, 5 or 6 years at least.
Yeah, longer
Yeah.
than that, really.
So, and Emma has really been integral in the of the whole of the Eastern Streams. But we have worked, as you'll learn here in a little bit from Save the Children from Sarah, Perry County is kind of our hub. It's where most of our council members live and work. It's got the largest town. And so there's a lot of emphasis and resources available in Perry County. And one thing that our council has tried to do over this past year and has written into our plan to accomplish in this upcoming year is to really focus the council resources into our outer counties, because we know that Perry County is well taken care of, and that they have monetary resources, but that Leslie, Letcher, and Knott counties don't have as much. And so what we're doing is working in collaboration with Save the Children, implementing some of the work that they've done here in Perry County that we've seen work, but really bringing those resources to our outlying counties. We've also created a steering committee made up of people from each of the 4 counties so that we have representation at all to help figure out those spending decisions, where resources are going to be directed, and making sure that we can pull off our really lofty goals that we set for this upcoming year. We've had it seems to be great participation since the pandemic has happened, because Zoom makes it easier for people to join in. We used to have meetings in person. They were typically in Perry County. And for some people, that's an hour drive. And that's really hard to make happen in the middle of a workday. So Zoom has really opened up our communication and our collaboration. So I'm going to hand it over to Emma so that she can talk about her role as board chair, and then around the Eastern Streams incorporation of the HANDS program.
Good morning. I'm Emma Davidson. I chair the Eastern Streams Early Childhood Council. My past experience was being in early childhood education. I was a director of the Hazard Lions Club Montessori School for 25 years before coming to the Kentucky River District Health Department, and I'm also a child care health consultant. So my over 30 some years now has been in early childhood education, and I know how important it is to develop the child as a whole, to get a child off to a good educational start. Not just in education, you have to cover all the areas. You have to develop the child as a whole. Okay. Even with being as a child care health consultant, I'm also a early childhood credential trainer. I'm a level 5 trainer, which I do a lot of trainings in the area, and specifically a lot of my trainings is in early childhood education. I work a lot with and do a lot of trainings in such programs as our in-home child cares. I work with our Head Starts, our preschool programs, and our child care centers. And not only with that, with being at the Kentucky River District Health Department, my office is right next door to our HANDS program, okay? I work extremely well with our HANDS program. We provide lots of educational material. We do such things as cribs for kids. We do safe sleep, home safety, We do lots of activities, and especially during the pandemic, since a lot of the HANDS program where they've been doing telehealth, not been making home visits. With Eastern Streams and with the health department, we have been making the HANDS program. We've been making the bags, and our HANDS program through the Kentucky River District Health Department has been doing drop-offs, which they were actually, their participants in their HANDS program, they would actually drive by their home and do like a porch drop off. They would drop off activities and things that that the parents actually need. And even through the HANDS program, it's a wonderful program. We pair up good together, we work together, and we know how important it is once that child is born into that family, meeting all those needs that family has. And even with just knowing that, hey, I have an infant and I am young, I don't have all the resources, I don't know all the resources out there. Just having an infant, how important it is to bond with that infant, how important it is for brain development, how important it is with social and emotional skills. So there's lots of things that the HANDS programs needs. And even with it is extremely important that with being in the council is that you combine all your resources in your community. I mean, you reach everyone in your community. You try not to leave out anyone. And like Kristen had said earlier, with the Perry County, we just have oodles of resources, and that we're trying to expand out. And we have like a steering committee that is going to combine the other counties and try to expand out in the other counties. And like, for example, during the pandemic, yes, it was hard to do in-person activities with school readiness and things. So we just reached out to other resources. We made activity bags, and we sent home to the HANDS program, to the Early Steps program with Save the Children. The health department, we made activity bags outside of our health department. We'd set them on the porch and invite the families in the neighborhood to come and pick them up. So we just did anything possible that we could do to get information and things out there. And not only that, it's extremely important to build those relationships. And how do you build those relationships? Communication is a key. Building that relationship one-on-one, going visiting that person. And I think even during the pandemic, as Kristen had said earlier, Zoom has worked extremely well for us, because you know that when we have our meetings, that it is so hard in the middle of the day, especially if you're in a program, you're in a preschool program, you're in a Head Start program, or even a child care program. It's hard to meet in the middle of the day. So Zoom will probably work well for us, and we will probably continue doing Zoom with our Eastern Streams Early Childhood Council. So even with that, through our WIC program, we communicate through our WIC program with school readiness, all the activities and things that we're doing through the health department. And like, for example, during COVID, we had 2 drive-through events. And we were just overwhelmed with the 2 events that we had. Like in December, we did a drive-through called Polar Express, and we invited all community partners to come and set up with the Polar Express. And we had over 300 cars that drove through this event just to pick up school readiness and activities and things for the children. So we said, well, if that went really well, we said, well, let's get together and let's do a Easter activity, a drive-through. So guess what? We did the same thing. We invited all the schools with Friskies, our family resource. We had over 50 community partners in this event that actually came and set up in the park. And we had over 500 vehicles that drove by to pick up resources, supplies, material, just anything that we had available to come through and to pick up these activities. So even like with Kristen said earlier, community pulling together, sharing together, helping each other. It's not like my program's better than your program. We're here for one major goal. We're here to help the kids, the community, and to get these children off to a good start and develop the child as a whole.
I'm going to tag in here real quick. So Emma's mentioned the numerous community partners that we have, the Friskies, the Save the Children, the Early Childhood Navigators, our civic clubs. I see Christy Krause on here. We have the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We have all kinds of people that bring tools and resources to our children. And I really feel like the role of our Eastern Stream CECC has been to make sure that they're all communicating, but then also trying to fill in where those gaps are. So we recognize that children get the take-home bags, you know, all 3-year-olds get take-home bags that are in childcare settings in Perry County. So how do we take that program or that little activity and expand it to all the 3-year-olds in Leslie, Knott, and Letcher? And so where are these gaps that we have funding to help fill? And so we have a great team. I see a lot of people on here from our CECC, which makes me really happy this morning. And so we have great participation. And I will say one thing that everyone has in common in our little group is it is seriously just focused on the children. It's not an ego game about who brings the most and who does the best. It's literally where can we help each other for the sake of the children. And that I think makes a really big deal. And the fact that, you know, we're all friends because we live in a small town. So there's that. So it is a benefit, and it's absolutely fabulous.
Thank you so much, Kristen and Emma. You all are doing some really great work. Something that I really also want to highlight, because you didn't mention it, but I think it's awesome. In your RFA, you had a ton of data, and you really did a great job of connecting that data to your needs and to the strategies that you're going to use in your community. And one of the data points that you all had in there were those. It was close to 2,500 children who didn't receive any services, like a child care service. And that was directly linked to the need for these home visitation and other programs. And then another, just to kind of connect a few dots on your strategies, for anyone listening in who isn't familiar with your application, the activity bags and these drive-through events that you're talking about, just for anyone who is like wondering what that connects to. In their application, they did a great job of describing the need for transition strategies and partnering with home visitation programs like HANDS and the Early Steps program to deliver those activity bags targeted at those key transition points. So I just really wanted to highlight that because I think it's really great work that they're doing. And we'd love to hear from other councils who are doing similar work, and just to keep sharing. So thank you all so much for sharing this morning. We appreciate you. So we are going to move over to Miss Sarah Bellinger. She is with the Save the Children Early Steps to School Success program. So this is a program that is that's available through Save the Children. So something I just want to address before she starts discussing is that while this program isn't available throughout all of Kentucky, so all of our councils wouldn't be able to access this program, it is a data-driven program with multiple components that could be replicated in your communities. So just kind of thinking along those lines as you're listening to Sarah discuss this program. And then after her presentation, we're just going to take a few minutes to do a quick kind of networking and group discussion activity. So Ms. Sarah, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And we are very honored to be highlighted as a bright spot in early childhood in the area. And I just have to say, we are very, very fortunate to have programming in Perry County. We've been in Perry County for several years, and the community is incredible. They are I'm inspired daily by the love that the community members have for their area and how they have always wanted to do what's best and see what's best. So just putting that out there as a shout out to Perry County. So we're also in Knott County and in other counties across the state, but we'll talk about that. So you can go ahead to the next slide. So just a quick little background. Save the Children is actually, we've been in existence for about 100 years. Started in Harlan County, Kentucky, and we are also an international program. So we're all over. And as it says here, we invest in early childhood every day. We are cover different things in nationally and internationally, but nationally we focus mainly on education, literacy, and language, and we've expanded to STEAM and STEM and social emotional development, and basically we want to give children a healthy start, and as we note here, opportunity to learn and protection from harm. Internationally, we do a lot of work in healthcare and providing for mothers in nutrition and schooling. Next slide, please. So our Early Steps to School Success program, we do have 4 main goals. We want children to enter school with skills necessary for school success. We want parents to have the skills and knowledge to support their children's education. We feel that parent support is paramount in the success of the child. And so often we find that parents, as well as community, does not understand the importance, or maybe they have not had an opportunity to know the importance of early childhood. So as noted in the last bullet there, we want early childhood knowledge and skills in the community to also be increased. And we also want that home and school connection to be strong. We want children to be prepared for that smooth transition to school. We feel like transition is very important. And also when we talk about supporting parents and parents supporting their children, we find that if a parent is involved in the school, the child will also have a better opportunities for success in school later on. Okay, next slide. So we have our early childhood program in Save the Children, specifically our home visiting program. We have home visitors, also called the early childhood coordinators. We hire locally because, you know, your home is a very personal and private space, and you don't necessarily want strangers coming into your home. So we make sure that we hire locally. We hire paraprofessionals and provide a lot of ongoing professional development. Just within our organization, we provide 50 to 70 hours of training each year for our early childhood coordinators. We also encourage that they seek professional development through their school systems and also in other areas related to early childhood. Okay. Our early childhood visitation, we have a caseload of 20 children, and those are pregnant moms and children up to the age of 3. We do 2 home visits a month, and we really focus on shared reading. You know, we say reading to the child is a very important part of our program, and we do provide books. We have a book bag exchange program so that our home visitors, when they visit the family, they provide a book bag with 4 books each time they come, and then they trade them out. So we're sort of like a little traveling library. But we also are fortunate to have donations provided to us and Save the Children, so that we receive a lot of books and a lot of other goods that we also bring to families. We realize that a lot of the times families don't have access to books, or they don't actually realize the importance of having books with children. And we also know that there are some of our families that might be they may not be good readers themselves. So we talk about sharing books rather than reading because we know that that conversation and the language back and forth to the child that is building all of those wonderful connections in their brains. So we really encourage parents to share books and talk about the pictures and just talk to the children. And we find that books are a wonderful way to start that communication. We have activities that our home visitors provide the parents. And also we come in to provide opportunities and coaching to the parents to interact with their children. Our coordinators don't come in to teach the children, they come in to be partners with the parents so that they have these opportunities and these ideas and the possibility to create those interactions that we know are so important between the mother or the caregiver and the child. So we help them in that regard. And as Holly shared with the HANDS program, which, by the way, are wonderful partners with us. We really focus on the social emotional learning, executive functioning, what to do in crisis, a lot of things that we really do work with the families on to build that relationship with their parent and to understand the importance of those early years. Okay. One of the bullets that I also noticed right as the slide went away is the community resources. We have something that we continue to build with the families, and my coordinators and I review these on a regular basis. What are the resources in the community? Who are the contact people? What do those resources provide? And that's something that our coordinators go over with the families. When they see a need, when they hear a need, they help to connect them with those resources that are available. And Perry County has wonderful resources and incredible partners in the area. We also help families conceptualize goals for their children. We have a curriculum that we use that guides our home visits. And we also have supplemental materials that I'll share a little bit more of that in a few moments. We really want to make sure too that we bridge that gap between home and school. Often our parents that we serve may not have had a stellar background in their school experience, and we want them to be able to view the school as a friendlier place than they might remember. So we have a lot of activities in the school. Each of our coordinators are based in a school. And we want families to feel comfortable and confident with their children when they transition into the school setting. And we know that school readiness, it doesn't start. You don't start when a child is 5 to get them ready for kindergarten, but you start in the very beginning. And the parents have a very important role in having their children be ready and helping them understand what that means to be ready for kindergarten. So we provide a lot of materials for growth and learning in that capacity. And we also make a point to be very flexible in our presentation and individualize based on the family's interests and needs and how they communicate what those needs and interests might be. We find that if we are family led, we're going to have much more opportunity for success. Okay. So one of the little supplemental things that I mentioned that we created during COVID, we normally are face-to-face visitation, but of course during COVID, we had to utilize our technology, and our coordinators have been incredibly creative in how they reach their families through phone calls, through Facebook, through Zoom. As Emma had mentioned, providing opportunities and activities and activity bags that they sit on the porch and different things like that. But one of the things also is our very stellar senior program staff created monthly activity calendars. And so they have specific ones for children, the prenatal to age 2, and also for the children 3 to 5. So every month they receive these activity calendars that provide opportunities for great activities for parents to interact with their children. And we shared those across the board, not just our home visiting program, but we sent those to child care centers through our early childhood navigators. We sent them through in the schools, in the preschools, everything that we could think of for those families who were at home with their children, to give them some ideas of things to do to engage their children. And a lot of the material that we also use is from the Vroom initiative that is from the Bezos Family Foundation. They are a free online organization. Well, Bezos Foundation is the organization, but the Vroom initiative is online that provides wonderful opportunities for engagement that really focus on helping parents understand that it doesn't have to be something that they have to go out of their way of to engage their children, that things that they do every day is opportunities to engage and build the children's brains. And everything that the Vroom initiative does is based by research, and they provide that as well, just to help parents understand that this is really good stuff. Okay. Another part of our program, besides our home visiting program, is our 3 to 5-year-old book bag exchange. And the way that normally works before and after COVID is in the schools where our coordinators are stationed. We have, normally we like to get the children who've been in the home visiting program so they can transition into the school program. And our home visitor, who they know and remember from being in their home, is a familiar and friendly face there to help with that transition. And what we do with this is we provide, again, that same book bag exchange that they were used to in the home, but it happens weekly. They get 4 books to go back and forth to their home each week, giving those families that opportunity to have books in their home. And it's, you know, again, so often families don't have access to books. Transportation is a big barrier with the families that we serve. So we want to make sure that we have those books available to the children and for the families to share and to continue that they started in the Early Steps program. Of course, we have children who are in the 3 to 5 program who were not even in our home visiting program, because we just want to reach as many children and to help as many families as we can to have books in their home. During COVID, we were fortunate to be able to give a book each month to the children in the home, so that they could start to build their own home libraries, both in our 0 to 3 age group as well as our 3 to 5 age group. We created interaction activities to go with the book, and one of our partners in the community is working to build bookshelves so that the families will have a place to put those books in their homes. It's just been such a wonderful experience to see the creativity of the community and the partners to be able to provide for families. And we track data. We ask the families each time that they bring their book bag back, how many times did you share or have a literacy experience with your child this week? And then we count that and we save it in our data to see if parents are reading and what the connection is with reading and building the child's language skills. Okay. Every month, we also have what we call our parent-child groups. The purpose here is not only to provide information. We have a curriculum too that we use for our parent-child groups. And I'll also say that one of our partners is 0 to 3, early childhood research-based program, nationally known, and they worked with us to create the curriculum that we use for our home visits and for our family, our parent-child groups. Our groups are parent-child focused. We also support transitioning in these groups. We provide information. We will invite community members to present, to share information of what's available in the community. We provide resources. But one of the things that we feel is very important is just that socialization, that opportunity for parents who have children of the same ages to get together and to network and learn from each other and, you know, provide those protective skills that we know are so important for resilience and the trauma that our families face every day in their lives. And the parent-child groups are a wonderful way to let families build that, the strength in having support and friends and community and finding out what's available in the community. Okay, please. And in Perry County, this is not something that we have across the nation, but in Perry County, we have been so blessed to have a Rosie the Readiness bus that we acquired right at the beginning of the pandemic with our partnership through Partners for Education through Berea College. We inherited this mobile unit that was originally created to provide services to children who were unable to receive early childhood services for different reasons. Often, as I mentioned, transportation is a huge barrier. And so because of the restrictions through COVID, we weren't able to utilize the bus as it was meant to be utilized by having children come onto the bus and have this preschool opportunity, early learning opportunity. But as you can see in this photograph, which is one of my very favorites, our early childhood ambassador, our kindergarten readiness ambassador, Kim Bowling, who's there in the orange shirt, who has just been the most incredible asset to our program, has just absolutely taken this and really run with it. She is very wonderful in partnering with other organizations, the health department, again, as Emma mentioned, and our kindergarten readiness liaisons, which is another program that we have in Perry County. A couple of very incredible women, Christy Minks and Kim Hoskins, work with Kim to provide every month activity kits, kindergarten readiness activity kits for children. And the kindergarten readiness ambassador are, when COVID is not happening, what their position is to provide an early learning experience to those children who don't have the opportunity for whatever reason to have preschool or daycare or anything other than just being at home before they start kindergarten. And those are the ones so often we find that are not ready for kindergarten. So our ambassador's role is to figure out how to get early learning opportunities to those children. Initially, we were having what we call play and learn groups that we had in churches or different community places around the areas that are close to families to attend who couldn't get to preschool for some reason, or maybe they didn't want their child riding for an hour to Head Start or whatever the early learning was. So we would have opportunities for them to engage in an early learning setting in that regard and involve the parents too. But so what Kim has done through Rosie is, for one thing, she's made Rosie very obvious in the community. Rosie's involved in all the events, any kind of an event or a parade or anything. Kim and Rosie are there along with our early childhood, our community engagement coordinator, Candace Fugit, and providing these activity kits for kids. She and her team also, when they provide the kits, they will do a Facebook or YouTube instructions on how to involve the families with those kits and what to do with them when you take them home. You know, instead of just providing a kit with a bunch of stuff in it, they show you what to do. They do read alouds on the YouTube channels or on the Facebook sites, and really have the opportunity to make those activity kits engaging and exciting. Our early childhood navigators, we have across the community, we have 3. We have at the Hazard Independent School, as well as our Perry County School District. 3 wonderful ladies who work specifically with early childhood settings to improve the quality of those child care centers. And Jennifer Cornett, Starla Fannin, and Laura Lee Ritchie have worked very hard, and Becky Stacy for a while. She moved to another position, but they thought, well, you know, we've got those 3 to 5 activity bags. Let's make some activity bags for the parents, for those children who are normally in childcare centers who are not able to be there right now. And so they created activity kits for the 3-year-olds and followed the same path of making the engaging of those kits available to families on Facebook and on YouTube channels as well. So that has been our additional Perry County program, has really made a difference, I feel like, during COVID, in keeping families engaged and children excited about learning and reading. Okay, next slide, please. And finally, through our programming with Save the Children and our Early Steps program and our additional early childhood programming, we have found when children are 3 and 5 years old, if they've been in our home visiting program for at least a year, we do the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test with them, which measures their receptive language. And you'll see there's a photograph at the top, and I'm sure that my coordinators will kill me for putting this picture up. I just got this recently of a couple of our coordinators and the PVT for a child to find out where they are receptively in their vocabulary. We have found that when a direct link for our children who've been in our program, their receptive vocabulary is enhanced because they've had that opportunity to have that communication and the relationships with their caregivers encouraged and enhanced and grown, and they do better with their receptive language. And it also, our programs, it gives the parents a feeling of accomplishment. They feel good about knowing that, oh gosh, I didn't know you were supposed to read to a baby. And the pleasure in seeing that babies love to be read to, and that just sparks that love for reading and language and school success by starting at the very beginning. And it's been wonderful to see that in families and involving the dads in that opportunity to encourage growth and learning in their child. Next slide. Oh, that's it. So that's our program. There's just so much more about our program that I feel like is not completely captured here, but it's a program that I feel like I feel honored and very blessed to be a part of Save the Children, and I have been for many years. And I've loved, especially working in Eastern Kentucky. Okay. So any questions?
So much, Sarah. I did see one question in the chat. It was, are the calendars available for others to use?
Sure, absolutely. We want to share. And you can contact, well, I guess the easiest thing, you can just contact me, and I am more than happy to share those calendars. I don't have my contact information here, but I'm sure we can share that later. But I can just say right now it's sbellinger@savechildren.org. Oh, and put that in the chat. That would be.
You can put it in the chat.
Yeah.
See, did anyone else have any questions for Sarah? I did have one question that I wanted to ask. Since we're talking a lot about collaboration and partnerships and our collective impact model, could you share with us some of the partners that you use in this program?
Wow. We have so many wonderful partners that help us make a successful program. I did send out a text to my coordinators asking them who they felt like or strong partners that help them make their programs successful, and they just flooded in. But just to touch briefly, specifically in the area of in our Hazard or our Perry County and Knott counties, local churches, the public library, the Community Early Childhood Council, the health department, health clinics, McDonald's, Hands, First Steps, Salvation Army, the local bookstore, the sheriff's office, the state police, the regional jail, and the drug court that's associated with that, women's shelters, child care centers, family resource centers, Hazard Community and Technical College, Kentucky River Community Care is just a few.
That's awesome. And I think our council members who are on the call today can probably relate and are probably saying, yep, we listed them as a member and we have their support as well. So it's really interesting just seeing, you know, that arrow going straight across of everyone really working together on the same goal. So thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing with us.
Certainly, thank you.
So our next, what I want to do next is just take a minute for a little bit of networking and just kind of some thought sharing. We've heard a lot about the home visitation programs that are data driven across the state. So we have Hands, which would be available to all of our councils, and Early Steps to School Success wouldn't be available to everyone. But I'm sure that as Sarah discussed the program, you were drawing some parallels between some strategies that your council is already using. So what I'd like to do is I have an idea board for us to use. Amanda is going to put the link in the chat for you. So when we open that board up, there are just a few big kind of buckets on there for you to look at. And when we are looking at that, kind of what we're trying to just do a little bit of a brain dump and any ideas that you have. So when you think about home visitation and or best practices in general in your communities, what opportunities do you have to either increase the number of home visitors in homes where families need that service? Are you already doing a great job with this? You can kind of share that and how you're measuring and tracking that data. Also, if you see barriers to this in your community, you know, are families hesitant to use a home visitation program? Sarah talked about the need for local individuals to be providing these services for that trust, and Holly touched on how sometimes staffing can be a barrier for Hands. Is that a barrier that you see? Do you see other barriers? If you are using something besides Hands or Early Steps to School Success, do you have other home visitation partners who are helping you with this? Do you have, you know, maybe you have a Rosie Readiness bus in your community that visits families? And then a final question that you could maybe put in that ideas bucket is, how do we measure the impact of home visitation? And I know that that might be a challenging question to answer, which is why this is just kind of like a brain dump and we're all working together on putting some ideas out there. So I'm going to stop sharing just so that I can pull that idea board up, and then I'll share that so everybody can see. Great. And then another question, if you'd like to also answer in the chat, we'd love to just have some thoughts in the chat as well for our councils. And let me pull up our questions here. But for our councils, is home visitation something that you included in your fiscal year 22 request for application? Is home visitation a part of your SMART goal? And if anybody wants to unmute and chat, you're also welcome to do that. Or you can put it in the chat in the comments, or you can add it to the idea board. Leanne is having trouble accessing the board. Was anybody able to access it? I might have done something wrong. Oh no.
It says something about external sites when I try to log on, so I wasn't sure if it was just me or.
I think it's like a security issue. I think if you click yes, it might let you in.
That's what happened to me too, and I clicked yes, and I was in.
Okay. Yeah, Kristen says if you copy and paste it, it should work too.
Okay, I'll try that. Thanks.
Sure.
I saw a couple of sticky notes on there, Nicole.
Sure, let me go in and pull those up. All right, just refresh. So we just have a couple of thoughts on here. So we have, for partnerships, we have HANDS and public libraries as active partners with our councils. I thought I saw transportation as a barrier on here, and I think that that's a great thought. Transportation, decision makers not understanding the importance of early childhood and engagement. Definitely. Who would be those, who are those decision makers in your communities? And also on the same token, are there ways that our office and the governor's office of early childhood can provide some support to you to really share that importance of early childhood? We have a question. If anybody wants to answer this question, who is the Rockstar community who has figured out the seamless enrollment process to ensure all children are enrolled prior to 12 weeks? Do we have a council out there who has a process down for getting children enrolled in a home visitation program? Communication with partners and community events. There's also another question in here. If anybody wants to answer these in the chat, you're also welcome to do that. Otherwise, we'll have access to this document later as well, and we can kind of keep bouncing some of these questions and ideas around. But is there a community where HANDS as an evidence-based model is a primary kindergarten readiness strategy? So going back to those SMART goals that we developed for our request for application to reach those outcomes, was HANDS used as a primary strategy? Thank you everyone who added a note in here. we're going to keep building on this. And this is something that we can come back to, and we can really start to think through as community early childhood councils and as collaborative groups across the Commonwealth. You know, we can really use this to kind of work together, and we can say, you know, that communication with partners is a huge opportunity that we have. And if everyone agrees with that, and they think that communication is a primary opportunity that we have, then maybe that's a direction that we should really start to think about and talk about. And just the same, you know, this question about hands, as if it's somebody's primary kindergarten readiness strategy, can we then look at the data for that community and see how their trends in kindergarten readiness have changed since hands became a primary strategy? So I'm going to stop sharing this and come back here. So before we finish up our session today, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who contributed to our session today. Our community early childhood councils work together as collaboratives within their communities, but the more that we can really share our strategies as a larger group, the more impactful we can really be, and we can continue to kind of use these models of, you know, of home visitation and any type of strategy in our communities that are data driven. We would love to have you share those with us. And if you want to share during our webinar, we would be more than happy to really, you know, help coordinate that and help you to share that information with the rest of our councils. So before we close out, one more link in the chat for you all is our survey, just to get a quick survey just to see if you learned something new today, and if what your role is in your council or in your community, and also if you need technical assistance or any support, or if there is a topic that you'd really like to see us do during a webinar. We would love that feedback in the survey as well. So with that, we all have 10 minutes back in our day to do good things and enjoy the beautiful sunny weather before it rains, at least in Lexington. So thank you all so much, and we will see you soon.